Hello, my name is Charlene Neomo, and I feel blessed to be here in the studio with Global City Unity this evening. It's giving me an opportunity to address some things that I think are so important for our community. First of all, I'm a grandmother, and as a grandmother, I'm very concerned in seeing the negative things that are taking place in our community, especially as it relates to all the killing and an inability for us to be able to get together and sit and talk and collaborate. We've been pushed so far back away from our real reality that we're so insecure that if someone expresses an idea that's different from ours, we look at that as something that is opposite, and it's not. It is an addition to what we're thinking. Our culture has to do with collaboration, with everybody working together to problem solve, not in competition with one another. I think a lot of the violence that's in our communities today comes about as a lack of love and a lack of God. And I say a lack of love because as a woman, I'm proud of who I am as a woman. And I feel that one of the things, God gave me love to bring to the table. And I feel that a lot of us women have gotten so caught up in the status quo. There was an old saying when I was a young woman that the players used to say. They said the game is out there for everybody. It's who goes for it. And it seems as though everybody is going for it because you don't even hear. I grew up with love songs. I don't know what's going on today. It seems to be something against women that's written into a lot of these modern records that a lot of the young people are dancing to, and I don't think that's positive. It's not. Nothing is positive when you and your mate are arguing. The whole thing about love in our community, that starts in the home. So if there's a war going on between the parents, then the kids are suffering. We, especially us women, we have gotten too caught up in what I consider the man's thing, which they're better at war than we are. But we can be real good at war too. But let's be good at love. Let's be good at focusing on our children, because God gave woman the responsibility of carrying the seed. In my grandmother's day, my grandmother had 13 children, but she knew if little Johnny down the street wasn't being treated right. She would find a way to bring some love in little Johnny's life. Johnny, do you like apple pie? And she said, will you come over tomorrow? I'm going to make you an apple pie. She never talked against his parents, because she knew sister so-and-so and brother so-and-so, they were going through something. That was the village. Once the village sort of moved away, those kinds of children began to fall through the cracks. And that is what is happening in our communities today. It's hard to even have a conversation, because if one person expresses an idea and it's a good idea, the other person with the good idea thinks that you're trying to push their idea away. Who heard of such stuff? That is not who we are. There was a man that I saw recently on within this forum who was talking about restorative justice. Well, before we left Africa, in the village situation, at least once a month for 3 or 4 days, time would be set aside so all of the disputes that were going on within the village could be solved, because the people that understood what it took to make things work, they knew that the village could not survive if everybody was arguing. So it was important that every month a certain number of days was set to the side to work people's problems out. That's what restorative justice is. It was practiced all over Africa. So we've got to reconnect with who we are. Now, when I hear people talking about what our test scores are, that makes me so angry. Those pyramids were already built by 5000 BC, and it took a knowledge of astronomy, astrology, geometry, and all that to do that. And now we can't learn? We are living out someone else's idea of who we are. And we've got to accept that God didn't make a mistake in this. I'm not ashamed of who I am as a woman of color. I wouldn't change, even though my life isn't perfect. I don't find it necessary to want to be somebody other than me. And that's the bottom line. And that's the way I want other people in our community to feel. But it's so bad that people of color don't want to listen to someone who looks like them. And until that happens, until we can learn to love each other again, then that economic stuff, it's not going to take place, because ain't nobody going to buy nothing from nobody who looks like them. So I feel that a lot of this has to do with, initially, the bottom line is the breakdown, not in the family. It starts with the man and the woman. It starts with God having given woman the responsibility to carry the seed. And we are supposed to make it our number one job to do everything we have to do with those like us, other women, to nurture and to bring love about, and to make sure that we don't get so caught up in what we have to do in our relationships with our men that we get pulled so far off into the war we don't even have no love coming out of us. So what I also want to say is that in the earlier millennium, when perhaps when those pyramids were being formed, and let me say this, that Egypt was the daughter of Ethiopia, and Ethiopia was a kingdom before the land that Egypt stands on came out of the water. In other words, every year the Nile flows down and takes soil down there. And Ethiopia of the Bible was already there before the land came out the water to build those pyramids. Okay? So now, once that civilization progressed to the point where Egypt was built up, then all of the other the Greeks, and then later the Romans, all had a relationship with that part of Africa. By the time power had moved from Ethiopia, and by the way, the first Bible was written in Aramaic, which is the language of Ethiopia, okay? By the time power had moved from Ethiopia to Egypt to the Macedonians, whom they called Alexander the Great, or the Alexander the Greek, and from after them came the Romans. Well, the Romans colonized everybody. They were into Jerusalem when Jesus was born. They had colonized the people that have the power today, the Teutonic people that we call Anglo-Saxons. They're just a part of that. But when the Romans had been jumping on everybody, and when those Teutonic people got tired of it, they went down there and destroyed the libraries in Rome. And when they destroyed the libraries in Rome in 500, all knowledge of who African people were just disappeared. So we fast forward to around 18, well, I don't know exactly when the Rosetta Stone was deciphered. The Rosetta Stone was a stone that had 3 languages on it: Egyptian hieroglyphics, classic Greek, and another Semitic language. Semitic meaning mixed or mulatto. And this man named Champollion was a Greek scholar, and he deciphered the Greek. And when he deciphered the Greek, they became shocked, because then they knew for the first time that the hieroglyphics weren't just pictures, they were a language. And then they saw what they had been doing, that they had been practicing medicine, that they had been practicing astronomy, astrology, and a lot of other things. And that's when a cover-up started as to who we were, because we were in slavery at the time. And I think, in a certain way, we're still dealing with that struggle, because a fear came up, and I think a decision was made not to maybe open up, but to close off. And but we're all there's only one race really, and that's the human race. So how do we come back together? We're talking about our community, we're talking about humanity. We have all the skills we need to solve these problems and to stop this silly stuff that's going on in our community. And I don't have all the answers, but I think that a lot has to do with me recognizing my role as a woman. I ain't gonna talk about the warrior woman. That'll be a secret when things don't go the way they're supposed to. But I want to be grandma, and I want to be the nurturer. I want to be the one who makes sure that my family knows that I love them. I want the children that I work with children too. I live up in the country now. That helps me to be a loving person too, because I'm not exposed to stuff all the time that make me negative. But I'm determined to use the knowledge and the skills that God has given me all the way around to make this a better world and to bring love back into the equation. And I thank you for listening to me.